Evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I am Bryson Carver. My Lord, do we have a show for you guys tonight. We got some NFL, we got some college football, we got some WNBA, a new WNBA champion. Congratulations to the Las Vegas Aces. I did predict Vegas would win the title before the season began. Obviously, I was not exactly the only one in that regard. I'll talk about them later. We're going to talk about Dak Prescott later. Mike McCarthy made a comment about Dak Prescott. I got to say, Mike, I hate your conservative coaching, but I got to say, hats off to you, sir. Hats off to you. I'll get into that later and why Mike McCarthy is 100% right about what he said about Dak. Also, the Vol View, and one of the biggest, if not the biggest edition of the Vol View. Again, our inaugural season doing this segment, but third Saturday in October, for those of you unaware, that is Tennessee versus Alabama. That's the nickname of the rivalry. Tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern on CBS. Massive game, maybe an elimination game to a certain degree for both teams. Certainly in the case of Tennessee, because their loss came to an SEC foe in Florida. Discuss that. Also, Week 7 NFL predictions. Bryson's Bleak bet, upset of the week, and if I were a betting man, my gosh, do we have a show for you guys tonight. But before we get into Jaguars and Saints, just real quick, I did want to acknowledge this. So today is October 20th, 2023. Tomorrow, the 21st, will be the 4-year anniversary. It's crazy. 4-year anniversary of Carving Up Live. So thank you to everybody out there who's tuned in, who's supported over the last 4 years. I'll never forget. So the studio I'm in now, outside of that door and a little bit to the left was where I recorded my very first podcast. I'm going to say it was about, I haven't checked, probably 20-some minutes long. I mean, it was a very short show. I was on a different podcast host at that time, so it was kind of restricting to a certain degree. It was probably good for me from a growth perspective, but just outside this door, using the same table, different microphone that I used back in the day. So crazy that it's been 4 years. I was actually thinking about that the other day. I'm like, is it really? Like, the 4 years just sounds weird. All the stuff that's happened. I remember doing the show through a pandemic when there was absolutely no sports to talk about. I'm still not real sure what segments we did on the show, given there wasn't any significant sporting event, or at least certainly games in 4 months. So it was unbelievable, but the support has been unbelievable. I've met some incredible people throughout this 4-year process, and hopefully 4 more years and beyond. That we'll see Carving Up continue to grow. So thank you so much to all those who tuned in, who have subscribed, who have just taken a little bit of time, be like, you know what, let's give this podcast a shot. And I can't tell you how much that means to me and to my family as well. My sister was who came up with the name for Carving Up Live. My dad came up with the idea, and my mom, to this day, often comes up with material for this show. So all three of them have played a role in it. So thank you to all of you, to my family, to all the supporters out there, and let's rock and roll, baby. Let's get into some sports. So we had Jaguars Saints last night, Thursday Night Football. Jaguars won 31-24 over New Orleans. I remember the line going in this game when I predicted it on Wednesday was Saints -1, which I felt was reasonable. By the time we got to kickoff, it was Saints -2.5. I'm not aware of any major injuries that happened to Jacksonville, obviously outside of Trevor Lawrence, but anything major happening in that regard coming into this game, at least in the 24-hour span between Wednesday and Thursday, is very, very odd. So I'm like, if Saints plus 2.5 is, I'm sorry, Jaguars plus 2.5 is an easy bet. They're handing you money right now. Again, more NFL predictions later in today's show. I did pick the Jaguars to win. And, I said on Wednesday that Dak Prescott had one of the most impressive quarterback performances of 2023, given the circumstances. And I certainly do not want to sound like the boy who cried wolf. Never want to sound like that on this show. But Trevor Lawrence had one of the most impressive quarterback games of 2023, and it's undeniable. He was absolutely positively spectacular in that game against the New Orleans Saints. So you look at his numbers, you're like, threw for 200 yards, 20 for 29. It's pretty good completion percentage, right? Touchdown, didn't turn the ball over, but QBR 0 to 100 of 84 and a passer rating right at 100. Not to mention Trevor on one leg. Matter of fact, the injury was so bad, his head coach, Doug Peterson, said after the game that on Monday, if you would have asked him if Trevor Lawrence was going to play on Thursday, he would have said no. I mean, Doug Peterson voluntarily said that in the press conference, saying that, hey, 72 hours ago, he wasn't going to play. Trevor went out there, played excellent, led a game-winning drive, threw the game-winning touchdown to Christian Kirk, who made an unbelievable play after the catch, was just 10 yards shy of 100 yards receiving. But Trevor Lawrence, again, and I love Travis Etienne. I think Travis Etienne is an excellent player. Trevor Lawrence, not Etienne, led the Jaguars in rushing. Okay, had 59 yards rushing, 7 yards a carry. By the way, in a stadium in which Trevor has struggled in the past, going back to his days at Clemson, I believe it was only his only 2 losses at Clemson in college for Trevor Lawrence were in that Superdome. I want to call it the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, but I think it's like Caesars or something like that. But he lost to, I think it was LSU and Ohio State back-to-back years in the college football playoffs. So you have those sort of demons. We know I don't believe in this stuff whatsoever, but there's this weird voodoo stuff in New Orleans. Maybe there's some of that. I mean, Trevor wins wherever he goes. If for some reason New Orleans, he just couldn't get over the hump to a certain degree, did last night. What Trevor did, I'll get into Derek Carr in the second segment. I'm going to be the rare person that actually defends Derek Carr. What Trevor did last night is show what a lot of quarterbacks, I should say a lot, but the names we all recognize as great quarterbacks have shown over, I think, especially the last 2 years. I've been saying on Carving Up Live, so 4-year anniversary tomorrow, been saying on this show for 2 years, the last 2 years, that it is a quarterback's league. You live and die by that position. Sure, you can have great defenses, and those are incredibly important. Great weapons, great offensive line, great coaching, to me, is the second most important thing to having great quarterback play. We've seen some average quarterbacks get to the playoffs and even win in the playoffs with great coaching. Running game, the whole bit. If you don't have that guy behind center, if you don't have that dude, you're not going to win the Super Bowl. Matter of fact, you have no chance to win the Super Bowl in the modern NFL. What Trevor Lawrence did last night, facing Derek Carr, who I still like and still believe in. Again, more on Derek Carr later in the show. What Trevor Lawrence showed you was the difference between I know people are crapping on Derek Carr today. I still believe he's a franchise quarterback. Worst case, he's a very good, I shouldn't say that, a good starter. Worst case scenario, he's a good starter. Difference between that and this is a guy who can literally put the franchise on his back every single Sunday and give you the best chance to win. Like, that's what Trevor provides you on a Sunday to Sunday basis. And if you look at Trevor since week 9, I've been saying this, people get on me for this, but since midseason last year, week 9, the Jaguars put together that win streak, won all those games to win the AFC South. They ended up winning that playoff game after being down 27 zip to the Chargers, won that game, and then lost to Kansas City. This year, they're off to a 1-2 start. People are like, Trevor's not going to make that year 3 leap. And even still, Trevor has 8 touchdown passes in 7 games. Again, his numbers are not going to blow you away by any stretch of the imagination. But it's what he's doing given, again, I love the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive pieces. Lawrence, obviously. Etienne, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones. I like Evan Ingram. Love Doug Peterson. So I'm good on the Jaguars offense. I picked them to get to the AFC title game and lose to Kansas City. The only reason they will not do that this season, if that's not the case, is because of that defense. I do not trust this defense to save my life. I thought they showed signs of life in that win over Indianapolis, taking the ball away, getting to the quarterback. I'm thinking, okay, maybe Jacksonville's defense starting to turn a new leaf. Not really. 24-9 Jaguars, they're in complete control of the game. And Derek Carr, who had been non-existent from an offensive production standpoint in the second half of this game, rather in the second half of this game, they got a hold on, let me bring this. Okay, yeah. They got a touchdown and another touchdown to tie the game up in the second half against a bad defense. Matter of fact, last drive of the game got down into the red zone in which the play calling was weird. Again, that's something else too. Saints have a bad offensive play caller. Derek Carr has not played well this season. Saints offensive line, particularly the left tackle, terrible this year. And in the second half, they went up and down on Jacksonville's defense. That is a legitimate concern for the Jaguars moving forward if they want to contend for and winning Super Bowl, which I believe they can and are capable of doing in large part because of their quarterback and head coach. But what Trevor did last night, it cannot be understated, or overstated rather, what he did. On one leg against an excellent defense. Again, the Saints' first 6 games, they gave up less than 20 points. Now, you could argue, those aren't exactly against world-beating quarterbacks. Sure, certainly. There's some Ryan Tannehills, and there's some Mac Joneses in there. They play nobody of the caliber of Trevor Lawrence, no question about that, and they play in a horrendous division. But that's still a great defense. As much as I don't like Dennis Allen as a head coach, he's an excellent defensive coordinator. He's an excellent defensive mind. He's shown that in the past. But, again, what Trevor did last night was incredible. I thought the Jaguars would win this game in a typical Thursday night football fashion win, where both teams are exhausted from Sunday. It's kind of an ugly game. It's not great for television. Poor Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit at times are trying to have to make something out of nothing at times. And then you see this guy just putting together a performance. Again, Jacksonville's offense couldn't get anything going. The momentum was in favor of the Saints. We know that's one of the toughest places to win in football. Trevor said, hey, I got y'all. I got y'all. And what did he do when it was all said and done? Game tied at 24, all the pressure on Trevor. He puts together a game-winning drive in which the Jaguars scored in 2 plays. Scored in 2 plays. That's what he does. That's what he's capable of doing. And that's why he's the 3rd best quarterback in the sport, which I've been saying since the end of last season. Again, a lot about being a great quarterback isn't just put up sexy numbers. Tua Tagovailoa, who I bought into this year, Dolphins fans, you got me. You got me on Tua. He's not Trevor. There is, outside of accuracy, which is big, he does nothing better than Trevor. I mean, give Trevor Tyreek and Waddle and Raheem Mostert. I mean, let's be real here. I mean, let's keep it honest here. And even still, if the Dolphins lose this weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles and what might potentially be the game of the weekend, the Jaguars and Dolphins will have the exact same record. 5-2 Jacksonville, 4-game winning streak, and Trevor's playing unbelievable football. For the record, I feel terrible about this game next week. They play my Steelers at Acrisure Stadium. God, my Steelers need to win this weekend because I don't feel great about that one next week. Again, more of my Steelers and more of the other picks next week, but goodness gracious, man. Trevor's special. Got a few comments from John. He's always make his presence known in the comments here. JETS, Jets. The old famous battle cry of the New York Jets. So, Jets are on a bye week this week. Well-deserved. Coming out of that first 6-game stretch, which was brutal. Got through it, beat Philadelphia, beat Denver before that. Obviously got the opening night win against the Buffalo Bills, but listen, Jets should feel like they're in a good spot. They play the Giants next week. They should be favored in that game. Yeah, they're a 3-point favorite right now in that matchup, but yeah, listen, Jets Nation should feel pretty good about themselves. I had my man Alfred Parso Jr., Grid Network contributor, great buddy of mine. We talk all the time, especially about playoff baseball, and he was very big on his Jets performance. He's a New York fan, and they're in a good spot. So props, John, Alfred, Jets fans out there, you should feel good about where you're at. I'm telling you right now, again, NFL predictions, not the Jets because they're on a bye week, but NFL predictions later on today's show in the Vol View in about 17 minutes from now. To Derek Carr. And I've been a big Derek Carr fan for years on Carving Up Live. Even before it was live. We went live starting in January of 2021. So Derek Carr wasn't exactly special last night. As a matter of fact, for the record, I've never called Derek Carr a special quarterback. I don't think even Derek Carr's most ardent supporters would say that. But he threw for 300 yards, but had a pick 6, had to throw the ball 55 times, had a QBR of 36, passer rating of 73. He was about the definition of average and certainly was not the reason that the Saints were in position to win. Played pretty well in the second half, but a lot of that was just bad defense by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So let's start with the bad on Derek Carr, and then I'll move to my defense. So the bad with Derek Carr to me is pretty obvious. So decision-making, dinking and dunking, I hate that from Derek Carr. By the way, Devontae Adams last year in Vegas constantly was like, dude, could you take shots down the field occasionally? There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with taking the occasional risk and throwing the occasional pick. Okay, I'm going to talk about the Vegas Aces later on today's show. Sometimes you take big swings in life. Sometimes you go after something, it's boom or bust, but you can't let the prospects or even the possibility of defeat deter you from taking that risk to begin with. Sometimes Derek Carr can it's kind of I don't even want to say it's necessarily paralysis by analysis, but he doesn't like taking shots down the field. That's why Alvin Kamara, who's a special player, had the stat line he did last night. They've got this kid Shaheed, who I love as a downfield threat. That's actually why the Saints won that game in week 1 against Tennessee, is because Carr was taking shots down the field. Decisions making is not great. That can be corrected. It can be corrected. And not taking shots down the field, that definitely can be corrected. My biggest issue with Derek Carr last night, and in his defense, he did take a little bit of the blame last night for what he did. I absolutely hated how he showed up his receivers, particularly Chris Olave. On the sideline, on the field, I did not like that at all. So, for those of you that seen the play, the real big one is where Chris Olave is running a go ball, and Derek Carr throws it way over his head and throws it 10 yards out of bounds. It's not even close. Even if Chris Olave runs the route that Carr supposedly wanted him to run, it was nowhere near a catchable pass. And Derek Carr on the field, live on Amazon Prime Video, is just yelling at Chris Olave. And listen, we get on. I've got an Aaron Rodgers in the past for yelling at receivers. I'm like, bro, that went on the receiver, dude. That was on you, or on the coaches. Hey, Aaron, that was on you, man. That takes some accountability. I got to show that same energy towards Derek Carr. I didn't like that at all. I've seen Kyler Murray do it in the past. I don't like it. Now, if it's maybe a heated discussion on the sideline between quarterback and receiver, no issue with that. Like, they're trying to get on the same page. By the way, we've seen Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs do that. No problem with that. But we haven't seen Josh Allen be the guy who makes a mistake and be yelling at Stephon Diggs. Maybe I'm wrong. I've never seen it happen before. Bills fans, Bills Mafia, correct me if I've never seen it happen before. We've seen Derek Carr do it before. We saw him do it last night. And Derek Carr said after the game, he's a guy who wears emotions on his sleeves. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong being an emotional player, just so long as you channel those emotions and keep them in check and use them when they need to be used. Which, as a quarterback, it doesn't need to be often, because that's not an emotional position. It's an intellectual one. It's a timing one. And Derek Carr thus far has not shown to be great in any of those thus far through the first 7 games of the season. However, now to my defense. So I said I picked the Saints to win the division, to go 9-8, to win the NFC South and get absolutely blitzed by whoever comes in second place in the NFC East. I figured it was going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm sticking to that. If Philly plays the Saints, if Dallas plays the Saints, they will boat race them. I don't care if it's at the Superdome. I don't care if it's in Dallas, Philly, Mars. Doesn't matter. They will absolutely dominate and destroy the New Orleans Saints, or whoever comes out of the division for that matter. And I still think the Saints are going to win the South. However, I'm hearing a lot of people today in national media criticize Derek Carr under the context of he was supposed to be the missing piece to get the Saints into Super Bowl contention. Wait a minute. Let's call timeout on this one. This was never a Super Bowl team with or without Derek Carr. It was not. And a big reason for that is coaching, is Dennis Allen. It's the reason I said coming into the season that I saw the Saints as a 9-win team and nothing more than that. 8-win, 9-win team, that's about what they felt. Their roster's good enough their ceiling is probably 11 wins, but the coaching is horrendous. Dennis Allen's horrendous. The offensive coordinator they've had for a long time, back to the Sean Payton days, Carmichael, I believe is his name, awful offensive coordinator, terrible situationally. And it's what worried me about the Saints going in this year. I actually thought the Panthers would finish second in that division. That's not going to happen. They're 0-6, but at any rate, whether it was Atlanta, Carolina, or Tampa Bay, if any of those teams were going to win the NFC South, it was going to be because coaching cost the Saints. And by the way, they have not been good in one-score games since week 2. So they lost one-score game against the Green Bay Packers. They lost a one-score game to the Houston Texans. They lost another one-score game yesterday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're not good situationally. And I thought the play, and I tweeted this when it happened, the play calling down in the red zone once the Saints got there, so they put together a good drive, got down in the red zone on the last drive of the game. I thought the play calling was very, very odd. So they got a first down and goal. Derek Carr throws the fade to Michael Thomas. Well, that worked earlier, so I understand them going to it. But then then he misses a throw to Taysom Hill. Then you have obviously the drop by Foster Moreau in the end zone. Which was a brutal play. He dropped the pass the end zone, back left corner. Should have been caught, wasn't. And that sometimes plays like that could be the difference in football games. And then last play of the game, they throw the fade to Chris Olave. So the fade didn't work. Matter of fact, never came close. Quarterback, receiver not on the same page. They tried again. It's complete lack of creativity. By the way, the Saints use very little motion. I think they're bottom 5 in the NFL in terms of motion. They've got to be down there with my Steelers because of the horrendous offensive play calling there. Listen, I understand not every OC is going to be Bill Walsh. That's fine. Or frankly, if we're looking at the modern times, they're probably not going to be Ben Johnson, who's arguably the best offensive coordinator in the sport right now, at least designated offensive coordinator, like not Andy Reid, who calls the Chiefs plays, whatever the case may be. But could you at least be creative? Could you at least keep the defense on their toes? I mean, this is Jacksonville's defense. It's not a hard thing to do. Keep them guessing a little bit. Not a hard thing. And by the way, it isn't like the Saints are the New England Patriots where they're devoid of offensive talent. Alvin Kamara was excellent last night. Michael Thomas was excellent last night. I've loved Chris Olave since he was in college at Ohio State. Shaheed is a deep threat. I mean, they've got the pieces. Now, O-line isn't great, and Derek Carr has been playing well. We understand that, and those are two key important pieces. No question about it. But this notion that they're just devoid of offensive talent is crazy. And so that's, and I don't think that's necessarily being put out there, but the thing I've said about Carr, and it's the one thing I struggle to convey sometimes is, the problem in Vegas was defense and coaching. Well, defense fixed. He's got the defense. He said they gave up 31 points. It's Jacksonville. It's Trevor Lawrence. They're going to score 30 and have scored 30 on a lot of teams this season. Trevor's a special player. Doug's an excellent coach. They got a lot of great pieces. They're going to score 30 on people. So that loss is not in the New Orleans Saints defense whatsoever. By the way, 7 of those points came off came on a Derek Carr pick 6 for the record. But again, coaching, it's back to his days in Vegas, back when he was just constant turmoil, constant change at offensive coordinator or head coach over and over. He had Gruden, he had Josh McDaniels, he had Dennis Allen, who he has now, unfortunately. He had, what's his name, Del Rio at one point as head coach, and then a slew of offensive coordinators. It's crazy. The one head coach that he actually worked with, Rich Bisaccia, the Raiders passed him on for Josh McDaniels. Like, that's the thing that I could never make sense of, is the fact that Bisaccia took over a good situation or a bad situation in Vegas, helped along with Derek Carr, the Raiders get to the playoffs, and they moved on from him. That's neither here nor there. But Dennis Allen is not a good head coach. He is in the Brandon Staley class of coaches. It's not even a question. He's bad situationally, bad in one-score games. I mean, that's who he is. Check his head coaching record. It doesn't lie. There's the Bill Parcells phrase, which I think is not as true as sometimes it's conveyed, but there's the Bill Parcells phrase, you are what your record says you are. Check Dennis Allen's record. Ain't great. So this, I heard a lot today. Derek Carr was supposed to be the missing piece for the Saints to compete for the Super Bowl. Aside from, again, I think the 3 best quarterbacks of the league, Mahomes, Burrow, Lawrence. I'm not sure any quarterback you could have plugged in, and that would have been a Super Bowl contender. Better, sure. If you plug in Jalen Hurts, if you plug in Lamar Jackson, you plug in Josh Allen, you plug in Dak Prescott, yeah, they're better. They're not a Super Bowl contender. They don't have the roster in the NFC. Certainly, if nobody in the NFC has a roster like San Francisco, they darn sure don't have the roster of Philadelphia or of Detroit, who I think is the best team in football right now. And I don't love Dallas's roster. It's not as good as Dallas in my view. So this is not all on Derek Carr. Again, the issues he needs to correct, the easiest one, or at least I should say the easiest one necessarily, but the quickest that needs to be addressed. Don't love Derek Carr's leadership, and that's always been one of my things that I loved about Derek Carr was his tangibles were pretty good. His intangibles were off the charts. But he's dinking and dunking. He's yelling at teammates on plays that are absolutely clearly his fault. But Derek's the type of dude. Derek's a good guy. Derek's a good guy. Family man. Again, he's always been a great leader in the past. He led a tumultuous situation in Vegas 2 years ago to the freaking playoffs and almost beat Cincinnati in that playoff game on the road. That's something I think he's fully capable of correcting. I don't like the dinking and dunking. Some of that's offensive play calling, but some of that's on Derek Carr. Sometimes those shots are available down the field, and he doesn't take them because he doesn't want to take that risk of potentially throwing an interception. Whether that's maybe is he not confident in the read? Is he not seeing something? I don't know what the issue is, but it's something that needs to be corrected and can be. And decision making, again, Derek Carr was up there in picks last year, so that's something that he needs to address. But I'm not just going to sell my stock on Derek Carr after 7 games. This just is who he is. It's year 10. Can you name Derek Carr's best coach? Please, I invite anybody. Is it Del Rio? I'd say it's Bisaccia, but they moved on from him. Vegas did, at least. Not selling my Derek Carr stock. Not going to do it. If I'm the only person in the world defending Derek Carr, then I'll do that, okay? Now, I'll probably have to back off the thing. I said he was the 10th best quarterback coming into the season. Definitely can't put him top 10 right now. Probably can't really put him top 15. Although if you put him these quarterbacks in the vacuum, that's about where I put Carr. Honestly, it's 13, 14, 15. He drops a few pegs for me. But I still believe he's a guy capable of being a franchise quarterback. But I said, look, the Saints don't have a good coach. Said that coming into the year. I said the Saints don't make the playoffs. It's going to be because of the coaching. Frankly, the Saints should have beaten Tampa Bay for the playoffs for the division last year. Coaching was horrendous. I don't know. That's my take. But he's not this whole, he's supposed to be the missing piece of the Super Bowl team. No, he was not. That is not a Super Bowl team. It's not. Certainly not a Super Bowl coach. Got a comment here from my man Parnell from the Commanders Demand podcast and the Sports PSP podcast. Parnell says Trevor Lawrence is still not top 3. But Parnell's not the only one. Most people disagree with that view. Again, I present to you the fact that, okay, I think Mahomes and Burrow, certainly Mahomes, even though he's having a down year, Mahomes is still special. I think Mahomes and Burrow are the clear 1 and 2. Clear 1 and 2. Check Lawrence's numbers, check Allen's numbers since midway last year. Same quarterback. And I trust Trevor more certainly in late game situations. And Trevor, this matters, did literally just beat Josh Allen 2 weeks ago. Jalen Hurts, who I'm certainly not going to steal my stock on Hurts, even though he's been a little turnover prone. Trevor's more accurate. Trevor's smarter with the football. Trevor's not as mobile as Jalen. But again, Jalen inherited a great situation in Philly. Amazing offensive line. Got the coach right with Nick Sirianni. Got a great offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen. Defense is awesome, or has been awesome for the vast majority of his 4 years there thus far. Okay, who else you went throughout? Lamar Jackson. You say league MVP. Okay, for one, that league MVP came 4 years ago. Okay, and I love Lamar. And that hurts me to stay as a Steelers fan, but I've always been a Lamar guy. But not near as accurate, not near as good in the pocket as Trevor, not as smart with the football as Trevor is. And frankly, when's the last time the Ravens have won a game, won a big game? Like, again, they really needed this one. Like, whether it's stay in a division, whether it was a playoff game, we were like, Lamar literally carried them. I'm talking a huge game, big national primetime game. Not seen it as much as we've seen with Trevor. Again, Trevor does have a 27-0 comeback in the playoffs on his resume against a great quarterback in Justin Herbert, who I wouldn't put above Trevor because why? Well, he blew a 27-0 lead to Lawrence. Dak would not put, and I love Dak. Love Dak. Cowboys fans probably get mad at me about this. Not putting Dak over Lawrence. Rodgers is 40 years old or about to be 40 years old. I'm not going to age him too much. And hurt. I mean, start running out of players. He's so good, though. I mean, he is. Again, by the way, dragging a bad defense and doing it on one leg. I'll tell you what, though, Jackson, he's going to need that rest that knee up against Pittsburgh, so he's able to be mobile, move in and out of the pocket, which he's capable of doing. That's one thing I said about Trevor coming into that draft and just in general. That, like I said, I mentioned about Trevor in my first segment that it's a quarterback's league. The thing about Trevor that people forget, and sometimes it's not to as much degree as with Trevor, but Joe Burrow, you can make the same case about guys that we think about as pocket guys, like a Lawrence, like a Burrow. They're actually pretty mobile. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, I'll never forget this. That playoff, the college football playoff game, I think it was in Arizona. A few years ago, it was Ohio State Clemson. Herbert versus Justin Fields was the Ohio State quarterback at the time. And Lawrence. Lawrence with Clemson, Fields with Ohio State. And Lawrence ran for like a 70-yard touchdown. It was like outrunning defensive backs. I'm like, he can do that? he's like Michael Vick with his legs. He's not Michael Vick with his legs, but you get the idea. I'm like, I didn't know he was that mobile. So him leading the Jaguars in rushing on one leg was shocking. But him leading the Jaguars in rushing, not that shocking. He's capable of doing it. Showed a new aspect of his game. But Jacksonville is, I think that, man, they are knocking on that door, really knocking that door to be the third best team in the AFC right now. I still think Kansas City's at the top. I've actually got Baltimore second, but Baltimore and frankly, all the three best teams in the AFC have tough matchups this week. Even Kansas City. I'll get into that game later. By the weekend's end, we could be talking about Jacksonville as the third best team in the AFC potentially. Who knows? Maybe second. Although I still don't trust that defense, but they are 5-2, and if Baltimore and Miami loses, same record. Actually, better than Baltimore. I think Baltimore has a better roster. Just goes to show you the gap between Lawrence and Lamar, and I like Lamar. Matter of fact, I love Lamar. There you go. All right. Oh, this is going to be a good one. So, I introduced the Vol View right before the day before the college football season started. And sometimes on, again, the inaugural season of the Vol View, you'll have some games here and there where you're like, okay, you just kind of get through this game. Like, kind of got to make a storyline out of it to a certain degree, like against University of Texas San Antonio or against Virginia, like games like that. You're like, Tennessee's going to win. It's just a matter of how much they're going to win by. Make a storyline out of this. This is one of those games, folks. And listen, if people out there don't appreciate this as much as Vol fans and Crimson Tide fans do, I totally understand that, and I totally get that. Okay, different rivalries mean different things to different people out there. We got a big game this week, Ohio State, Penn State. Huge, big rivalry, massive game, biggest game of the weekend. But it's not that much bigger than that game that's going to be played in Tuscaloosa. Third Saturday in October, my Tennessee Volunteers hoping to extend to start a winning streak against Alabama tomorrow in Tuscaloosa. Haven't won there since I was 4 months old. It's been that long, folks. Tennessee, Alabama, the Vol View. A big episode of the Vol View starts right now.
Football time in Tennessee.
Is it ever? My goodness. Third Saturday in October in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Bryant-Denny Stadium. This is a big one, folks. Okay, so for Tennessee, Alabama, you got Alabama's the 11th ranked team in America. Tennessee, I haven't worn this Vols hat in a while on this show. I love it. Got it last year. I love it. But my Vols ranked 17th in the nation. Alabama sitting there with a record of 6-1. Haven't had their bye week just yet. Tennessee had their bye week 2 weeks ago. So we are 5-1 on the season, coming off a big-time win against Texas A&M. Listen, I never in the Josh Heupel era, Josh Heupel, head coach of Tennessee, I never thought in the Josh Heupel era I would see the day when in a big nationally televised home game against an excellent SEC opponent, which I believe Texas A&M to be, that it would be the defense and the special teams that won that game. Shocker, shocker, it was. Tennessee's defense is the best they've had in the brief Heupel era, the third year of the Heupel era. Pass rush is excellent. I'll get to that more in a second. Secondary, Haddon is playing excellent. Number one corner for the Vols, has been playing great football, as well as the fact that the special teams, what's his name? Kicker, I'm blanking on his name. Charles Campbell. Charles Campbell, I believe is our kicker's name, was excellent. Made all but one of his kicks the other day last week. D. Williams, and I love me some D. Williams, punt returner for Tennessee, returned one, I think it was 35, 40 yards, something like that, to the house to essentially win the game. That's punt return for a touchdown ended up being the difference, despite a lackluster offensive performance by Joe Milton and the Vols offense. Running game was pretty good, but the passing game never really found a rhythm all afternoon. So that's going to be something that's going to need to be corrected against Alabama. For the record, again, in a game featuring the 17th ranked team, the road team, and the 11th ranked team as the home team is a 9-point favorite. Now, I am old enough to remember when last year, Alabama, who was the third ranked team in the nation at the time, was somewhere around 9.5 point favorite in Knoxville. Now, as tough, Neyland Stadium is one of, if not the toughest place to play in all of college football. Ask Baker Mayfield, Big 12 quarterback. Ask Baker Mayfield how he felt playing in Neyland Stadium. It's a different animal. Playing Bryant-Denny Stadium, though, ain't no joke either. Okay, that's as difficult as there is to play in the SEC and in college football as well. Texas A&M was able to pull it off earlier this season. Texas A&M, coached by Steve Sarkisian, Quentin Ewers at quarterback. They did a great job returning most of their offensive defensive starters. Went on the road, took the ball away from Jalen Milroe multiple times. Now, Milroe has played better in the last few weeks, but Jalen Milroe, quarterback of Alabama, successor to Bryce Young, Heisman Trophy winner. Jalen Milroe made an interesting bulletin board material comment regarding Tennessee. So he was asked about the Vols defensive line, and Jalen Milroe said, and I quote, "We're going to have a lot of fun. We don't care about none of that." He said, "There's no better feeling than having that cigar at the end of the game." Now, he is correct about that. Those of you who don't know, the winner between Tennessee, Alabama, winner of the third Saturday in October rivalry game, gets a cigar. All the coaches, players, fans, everybody smokes a cigar after the game. I'm not quite sure where that tradition started. It might have started in the Bear Bryant days back in the 50s and 60s or whenever Bear Bryant coached. That's kind of when the tradition started, and it's continued to the modern day. But to me, what I think the key for this game is, and I think this is going to be in 2023 college football where you've got Washington and you've got USC, you've got Georgia, you got Michigan just going up and down the field, whether it's in the pass game, in the running game, whatever the case may be, just Ohio State, Notre Dame, just going up and down the field on teams. I think this is going to be, if you love defense, which me personally, I prefer offense far more than defense, but if you're a defensive person, man, tune in at 3:30 Eastern on CBS because this is your football game. Because Tennessee's defense, might I mention, Tennessee is third in the nation in sacks. So you got the kid Pierce coming out the edge, number 27. Tyler Barron rushes the passer a lot at the linebacker spot. Got a lot of guys who can get to the quarterback. Got some good interior alignment as well. So for Tennessee, getting the quarterback's not an issue. For Alabama, protecting the quarterback has been the issue for them. They've given up 31 sacks this season, which ranks 130th out of 133 FBS football teams. So Bama cannot protect the quarterback. Tennessee gets to the quarterback. So that's a bad matchup for Alabama. Not to mention the fact as well that both offenses have been put together some lackluster performances. Alabama last week against Arkansas, barely got out of there by the skin of their teeth. Tennessee last week against Texas A&M kind of got out of there by the skin of their teeth on the likes of that defense. First of all, I'll say this before I predict the game. If you are a betting man or a woman, as the segment goes, I do it every week. Going to do it when I do my NFL predictions. As the segment goes, if I were a betting man. If I were a betting man, if you're a betting man or woman, take Tennessee in the points. Vegas is saying, hey, here you go. 9 points for Alabama. Here you go. Both offenses can't score to save their lives. Both defenses are excellent. Bama's secondary scares me. I'm scared about Joe Milton making some potentially big mistakes. This, to me, is going to be the type of game. And Peyton Manning was on the Pat McAfee show recently. Peyton Manning, well, I shouldn't have to tell you who Peyton Manning is. He's Peyton Manning. But he was sort of alluding to this, and I'll expand upon it. Peyton was saying, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think this is going to be, who was the old broadcaster, the former broadcaster for the Clippers? I'm forgetting his name. Not to give the Clippers any love, but they did have a former broadcaster who was really good. I'm forgetting his name, but he had a rule that the first team to get to 100 points in an NBA game won. And I think the data and evidence most of the time prove that to be true. I think the first team to 20 wins this game. Whoever gets to 20, 21, whatever the case may be, whoever gets to 20 is going to win this football game. Is going to win the third Saturday in October. And when it's all said and done, given the fact that my Vols are at number one, numero uno, in the Southeastern Conference in running the football, consider the fact that we are third, not in the SEC, in the nation in sacks, and given the fact that Bama's offensive line is the fourth worst, not in the SEC, in the nation, at protecting the quarterback, at protecting Jalen Milroe and the other quarterbacks they've thrown out there this season, you know who I'm going with. Come on, well, what are we even doing here? Give me my Vols. In a little bit of an ugly game. 23-19. Take Tennessee in the points if you're betting this game. And if you're just watching this because you're a Tennessee fan or Alabama fan or college football fan and you're looking for a great matchup after the Ohio State-Penn State game is concluded, this is your game. Give me the Vols 23-19 to continue a winning streak against Alabama dating back to last season. Obviously, last year, I said after that game was my second greatest sports memory in my life. I was not able to be at Neyland Stadium when it happened, but my voice, you wouldn't know it for as much as I lost my mind during that game for 3.5, 4 hours. I have a feeling it could be more the same. So my voice is a little bit shot on Monday. Y'all know why. But listen, I think it's going to be a fantastic football game, a nail-biting game, a game in which the ball's in Jalen Milroe's hands, 2 minutes to go, maybe at 35, 40-yard line, and Tennessee's defense gets a strip sack to end it. I say Pierce gets the strip sack to end the game, and Tyler Barron recovers. Vols win, put the score back up one more time, 23-19 over the Alabama Crimson Tide. That is this week's edition of the Vol View. As you can tell, I'm fired up for this matchup. Listen, before we get out of here, I just want to say, so it's a rivalry game. obviously. It's now a rivalry official game because Tennessee finally got a win. There are Tennessee fans out there that hate Alabama more than Florida. There are Alabama fans who hate Tennessee more than Auburn, which I think Alabama-Auburn was one of the best rivalries in sports. So that actually surprises me a little bit. But just given the depth and the history of this particular rivalry, I'll say this. I hate, if we're just putting it in a box, I do hate Florida more than Alabama. I do. I don't like anything about Florida. Aside of Tim Tebow, I don't like anything about Florida. Nothing. I hate their uniforms. I hate the way their stadium's shaped. Okay, I don't like the coach, Billy Napier. Nothing I like about Florida. And I don't like alligators. Dang it, they scare me more than snakes, and I hate snakes. I do have a healthy level of respect, though, for Alabama, because I think Nick Saban is I don't think it's even a debate. He's the best coach in the history of the sport. It's not even close. With respect to Bear Bryant, to anybody else you would throw that discussion, it's Nick Saban, and it's not even close. Most national championships ever. I respect a lot of the players who went to Alabama, whether it be quarterbacks, defensive players, offensive linemen, receivers, tight ends, running backs. Respect a lot of, running back for my Steelers, Najee Harris, University of Alabama. So respect a lot of players coming out of that program. And they've obviously built the dynasty of college football. I don't think it's going to continue necessarily. I think it's Georgia's time now. But they built one of the greatest, if not the greatest dynasty in college football history for about a decade and a half. And they deserve all the love and praise in the world for that. My hate for Alabama, first of all, I think their uniforms are really, outside of Penn State, are probably one of the most plain, most boring uniforms in college football. But be that as it may, because I think the aesthetic matters. It just does. I cannot stand Alabama fans. I'm just going to be completely upfront and honest about that. I can't stand Bama fans. I've known Bama fans. Matter of fact, since last year's game, I actually know one particular Alabama fan who's, I think, spoken all of like 5 or 6 words to me since that game happened. I don't know where that person went. Just left. I haven't seen them possess. It's very, very interesting. Went looking for him after the game was over. Couldn't find him. The mutual hate between Bama's fan base, Tennessee's fan base, both, I will acknowledge as a Vols fan, equally obnoxious, equally annoying. If you're another opposing fan base looking at us, I understand why you look at us and say, dang, they're obnoxious. Understand that. But it goes both ways. Tennessee, Bama. Whew, it's going to be a good one. Going to be a good one. The Rocky Top will be playing from the rooftops of Knoxville, Tennessee, and all over Vol Nation. And certainly on the show on Monday on Carving Up Live. Vols 23, Alabama Crimson Tide 19. Vols 23, Crimson Tide 19. Vols extend their winning streak, or starting winning streak against Alabama. I feel great about it. I feel like, to use the words of my man Alfred Parsar Jr., I feel 99.9% confident that it is going to happen. And that is it for this fired up edition of the Vol View. Take us out of here, John Ward.
Football time in Tennessee.
Not freaking wait for tomorrow night's game. I can't wait. And for Penn State, Ohio State. And by the way, there's some other great games in college football this weekend. Then we'll move on to the Vegas Aces winning the WNBA championship. But Penn State, Ohio State, that's the game. College Game Day's there, the whole bit. I think Fox's pregame show, ESPN's pregame show, everybody's there. It's a massive matchup in Columbus. Ohio State's a 5-point favorite. The crazy thing about this is I think Ohio State is better just about everywhere. Just about everywhere from a roster standpoint, except for quarterback. And I think James Franklin is the better head coach. I think even Ohio State fans, listen, they hate Ryan Day a lot. His record is absolutely outstanding. So I don't know. I'm a Ryan Day defender more than most, but James Franklin, I think, is an excellent coach. I'll go Penn State in the points, but Ohio State to win. So I'll go 30. No. 27-24. Ohio State wins in a walk-off field goal. 27-24 Ohio State. Little bit of a defensive battle until the fourth quarter. Ohio State wins in a walk-off field goal. They win in walk-off fashion, similarly to how they did. I see my man John Rivera, who's a big Notre Dame fan. He's got the Clovers here in the comments. He's a big Fighting Irish fan. Sorry to bring this up, John, but when Ohio State won on a walk-off touchdown to beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame, I think they're going to win a walk-off field goal to beat Penn State. Also, you've got, this was going to be a great, or at least a very intriguing matchup, Oregon and Washington State, but then Washington State got probably the most embarrassing loss of the 2023 season thus far is Washington State against Arizona. Lost 40. Arizona's above 500. They're really not that good. They're not. Arizona beat Washington State 44-6. I mean, I had Washington State fans in my comments talk about how their quarterback was better than Caleb Williams. Man, it's crazy. And I have a soft spot for Washington State just because Klay Thompson went there. But I'll take Oregon to win and cover. Let's see what else we got. This is going to be a great matchup. So listen, if you want to get a good trifecta of college football, you start your day with Penn State, Ohio State, you move to Tennessee, Alabama, and then you move to the nightcap on on Fox, Utah and USC. I'm going to take Utah to win. They won twice against USC last year. Sorry to my guy Barry Grant Jr., who's a big Trojans fan, but I'm going to go with the Utes. I should have had the soundbite ready, and Barry would have killed me for this, but I should have had the soundbite ready for when he was Southern Sauce Barry Grant Jr. when he lost that bet to me last year. The video's on YouTube. Maybe I'll put the link to it later. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But you can check that out on the Carving Up YouTube channel. Barry from New York, by the way, big Trojans fan, lost a bet speaking in a Southern accent. So really interesting. Duke, Florida State. I'm smelling upset. I have not liked what I've seen. I know Florida State, to their credit, they took care of Syracuse and Virginia Tech the last 2 weeks. Florida State's more vulnerable than people give them credit for. I don't think they're a terribly disciplined team. Watch out for Duke. Watch out for Duke, okay? I'm just telling you right now. You know what? Let me not straddle the fence. My brand is not straddling the fence. It's about making big, bold claims and being right most of the time, let's be honest. Although when I'm wrong, it's usually pretty embarrassing fashion. Duke wins. Duke beats Florida State. I'm not even going to have a score. Duke beats Florida State. Okay? Got the quarterback advantage with respect to Jordan Travis. Riley Leonard is excellent. I like the coaching matchup for Duke. Duke wins. You heard it here first. So, good matchups in college football. Really good matchups in college football here in Week 8. I'll tell you right now. All right. Moving on to the WNBA Finals. So I said aces in 5 games. Again, WNBA Finals, best of 5, not best of 7. I thought it would go the distance. Both teams kind of went at each other's necks throughout the course of the regular season. In the end, it was aces in 4. They won the series 3 games to 1 over the Liberty. Did so in the Barclays Center in New York. 70-69 to clinch their second consecutive WNBA title. So first of all, congratulations to the Vegas Aces, the first back-to-back champ since early this century when the Los Angeles Sparks won back-to-back titles with some spectacular teams back in the day. But this Vegas team is absolutely a dynasty. There's no question about it. Winning back-to-back titles, looking like the best team clearly in both. What I think is interesting about Vegas, I'll get to Asia Wilson in just a second because she is slowly putting together one of the most impressive basketball resumes that we've ever seen. She should have been regular season MVP this year with respect to Breanna Stewart. What Vegas is showing you and showing us, and I think it's what all of the great teams, I think Golden State did a good job of this, especially during the Kevin Durant era, is we see, there's stars everywhere. Oh, they got this player. This having a culture with talent makes you unstoppable. And Vegas has a culture. Becky Hammon's the head coach. Remember, she was the assistant to Pop for all those years in San Antonio. One day, I think she will get an NBA job. At least she should. She's a tremendous coach. She's a point guard. She's got a great basketball mind. Very, very deserving of this. Her Pop, after the Spurs preseason game, said that he considered getting himself thrown out, getting himself ejected so he could go watch Game 4 between Vegas and New York. Meant that much to him just to see, Becky Hammon, formerly of his staff, to do what she did. But what I love, though, about the Las Vegas Aces is the fact that it's a perfect, and I love sort of this healthy medium. I mean, I'm a political independent, so I love healthy mediums in general, is mixing drafting your best players with bringing in other great players. And that's what Las Vegas has been able to pull off. So obviously, you have A'ja Wilson, who has been, she's been the staple of the franchise ever since she got there in 2018. Kelsey Plum, number 1 pick back in the day as well. She's been a staple of this franchise for a long time as well. But you also have, if you look at Las Vegas's roster, you have people like Alicia Clark, who had a spectacular story. She lost her dad before the season started, so was able to dedicate this season to him. She had a very emotional game with a post-game interview with Holly Rowe after the game. She had an excellent series. It had a pretty good game for as well. You have Jackie Young, who play well, and by the way, they bring in Candace Parker. They bring in they brought in Chelsea Gray not too long ago, a few years ago. Bringing in players from opposite franchises, again, being aggressive, bringing in veteran leadership, but also building around the sort of the young core that you have with A'ja Wilson, with Kelsey Plum. Both spectacular players in their own right. And by the way, as far as A'ja Wilson is concerned, again, what's crazy about her is she's only 27. Like, this is the absolute prime of her WNBA career. At least she's probably just now beginning it. She's slowly putting together one of the most impressive, forget WNBA resumes, one of the most impressive basketball resumes that we've seen. So she came into the league in 2018. So she just completed her 6th year in the WNBA, okay? Here's what she's done in that span. 2-time WNBA champion, 1 finals MVP this year. She's won the regular season MVP twice, should have won this year, should have 3 MVPs. Been WNBA Defensive Player of the Year back-to-back years, including this season. As a 5-time All-Star, has been first team All WNBA. First team All WNBA as well. 3 times. She's been All Defensive First Team the last 2 years, and she's led the league in blocks 3 times. Like, she is putting together an absolutely spectacular resume. So hats off to A'ja Wilson again. And by the way, too, this reminded me a little bit of those 90s finals when Jordan would lose out an MVP to Charles Barkley or to Karl Malone. And there's the old from The Last Dance, and I took that personally. Jordan would take it personally. That became a meme. And he would go at Chuck, or he'd go at Karl Malone, and oftentimes, almost always, would have better series than them. That's what reminded me of a little bit, where Breanna Stewart won regular season MVP. And I listen, Stu is an excellent player, elite, top 3-4 player in all of women's basketball. However, A'ja Wilson absolutely had the better season. And so this felt like a little bit of a situation of kind of taking it personally, taking it out on Breanna Stewart, who, by the way, had a rough series. A'ja was outstanding in the offensive end, outstanding on the defensive end. And listen, Vegas is in. And by the way, again, Vegas did this without Chelsea Gray and without Candace Parker. Candace Parker, by the way, shout out Candace Parker. Listen, I know she didn't play a ton this season due to injury, but she now has 1, 2, 3 championship rings with 3 different franchises: the Sparks, the Sky, and now the Aces. Vols legend. She's one of my 2 favorite Tennessee athletes of all time. Back when she played with the Lady Vols, won 2 national championships there with the late, great Pat Summitt. She is absolutely spectacular. She's an incredible ambassador for the game of basketball. And I don't know if this is it for her career, if she'll decide to come back to Vegas, if she decides to go elsewhere. Maybe she'll go back to the Sparks. I don't know. Sparks kind of have a little bit of a rough season this year, but whatever she decides to do, she's had a spectacular career. There's no question about it. One of the greatest players in the history of women's basketball. But congratulations to the Aces. They're absolutely deserving of this. And as for the Liberty, look, I've been a Sabrina Ionescu fan since her days at Oregon. I actually made the bold claim, again, carving it up, celebrating the 4th anniversary tomorrow. I said I think it was January, or it might have been February. I think it was February of 2020 that I thought Sabrina Ionescu had the potential to potentially be the greatest female basketball player of all time. That doesn't look as likely today, given what we've seen, obviously, from A'ja Wilson. There's an argument to be made that Breanna Stewart is the best player on the Liberty. Sabrina's not even the best player in her own team, although I trust, with respect to Breanna Stewart, I trust Sabrina more in late game situations. I didn't like that she didn't have the ball in her hands on the last play that basically decided a championship, but that's neither here nor there. Listen, she's going to win MVPs. She's going to win assist titles. Who knows? She may even win scoring titles in the future, but she's kind of a distribute first point guard. Courtney Vandersloot, who, listen, she missed the game-winning shot, but she's one of the premier shooters in the WNBA. Listen, the Liberty have nothing. I should say they have nothing to be ashamed of, because obviously they want to win the title. They were aggressive in going out and getting Breanna Stewart and bringing in the pieces that they brought in, and Courtney Vandersloot. But look, listen, they'll be in a spot next year to potentially contend and compete with the Vegas Aces. And this has a potential. If the Liberty were to win next year, this is the rivalry of the WNBA. And look, listen, women's basketball is in a fantastic spot with next year going to have Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and Haley Van Lith coming into the WNBA. Paige Beckers coming to the WNBA out of UConn. I'm a big Paige Beckers fan. With the stars that they already have, the WNBA, the ratings show the league is only growing. Great year this year for the league. And the best team won it all when it's all said and done. The best player in the world in that respect won it all as well. The best coach, best roster, best player, and best organization as well. So, by the way, does Tom Brady get a ring? Does Tom Brady get, because Tom Brady's in the Aces ownership group. I'm just saying, does Brady get, did Vegas did Asia and Wilson and Kelsey Plum get Brady ring number 8? Is he could be like the Magic Johnson, where Magic's got five rings as a player for the Lakers and has 1 million rings as the owner of like the Sparks and the Dodgers. I don't know if he's in the Dodgers group anymore. Like, it's LAFC. I mean, Tom's going to be the new Magic in that regard. He's just going to win championships in the ownership group, but congratulations to Vegas. Well-deserved championship. Unbelievable game 4 down the stretch of that game. Liberty made a run there at the end, but Asia Wilson basically made the play that won it. So, unbelievable game. No question about that. And we got a new dynasty in the WNBA. Really the first dynasty since the Sparks 20 years ago. So, it's great for the sport. I've always said dynasties are great for professional sports, not as much college sports, because parity, we've always known, has kind of been non-existent, certainly in college football and even in other aspects of college sports. But in pro sports, it's great. So, congratulations to the Aces. Very, very well deserved. Also, I wanted to hit on this topic before I got to my NFL picks, of which, by the way, I feel great about. I went 10-5 in my picks last week, so I pretty solid week 6. Feel great about my week 7 picks. More on that in just a moment. First game in a while, by the way, we haven't had a Sunday morning game. Mike McCarthy of the Dallas Cowboys, head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, was talking recently to the media, and the Cowboys are on a bye week, and he was talking about Dak Prescott, and he said he was talking to Chris Russo. I don't know if he was talking to Chris Russo, but he was on Mad Dog Sports Radio the other day. And he said, quote, "I love Dak Prescott as our quarterback. I think the way he's built all the way, though, obviously his physical skill set is excellent, but what he endures mentally and emotionally compared to the other 31 quarterbacks is unique. Speaking on experience and being around other great quarterbacks, I've never seen a quarterback under a microscope like he is." He went on to talk about Dak. He said, just his consistency, his personality and work ethic, and how he handles all that and navigates all that, and he goes out and performs every week. I think it's special what he has to endure. I think the intensity of the microscope on Dak, I've never seen anything like it. For him to be as consistent, his attitude is very much the same every day as far as how he attacks the preparation part of it. You have to be unique to deal with that. And this is year 8 for him, so he's been dealing with this a long time here. The intensity is nothing like I've ever seen. So Mike, that's end quote, by the way. Mike is very adamant about, and by the way, he coached 2 of the greatest quarterbacks ever in Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Dak is obviously not even close to that category. I think Dak is a tremendous quarterback, but he's not prime Aaron Rodgers or even prime Brett Favre. Certainly a better human being off the field than Favre is. I'll tell you that much. But anyways, that's beside the point. So I've seen people discussing this, whether it's on radio, television, even on social media. Is this whole how Dak Prescott is covered, how Dak Prescott is talked about in the media, given his performance and whatever the case may be. And I think it's 2 different conversations to have. It's 2 separate conversations to have. Is the first one is how Dak Prescott is covered unfair from the standpoint of he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Well, if we're just sticking to that part, the Dallas Cowboys quarterback part, it's not fair to Dak, but it's also not unique to Dak. Romo dealt with this. Aikman dealt with this. Staubach was really kind of the first to deal with this. As social media has grown, the scrutiny has grown, obviously. Everybody gets an opinion. Everybody's an expert on Twitter. Everybody's got their blogs, their social media, their podcasts, etc. It's more so now than it was in Aikman's day and certainly in Staubach's day. There's no question about that. But the scrutiny on this position is the same that it is for great Lakers players, for great Lakers big men. I mean, the scrutiny around Anthony Davis is I'm kind of at the front of that group. Like, man, I can't trust AD. I call him coin flip Davis, right? But there's been so many great Lakers bigs, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and going before that, Elgin Baylor and Shaquille O'Neal, and to a lesser degree, Pau Gasol. And so for Anthony Davis, who does have a championship in LA, it's sort of, hey, can you live up to that? And so the scrutiny around AD is different. The scrutiny around great Yankees players, Aaron Judge, it's different. Can he fill in the shoes of Jeter? Could Jeter fill in the shoes of other Yankees greats before him? How about, is it John Shire, I believe is the head coach? I think that's his name. The head coach of Duke men's basketball. Are there bigger coaching shoes to fill in sports? I mean, aside from Saban and arguably Belichick, that's the biggest coaching shoes to fill there is in sports. With Coach K leaving, Mike Krzyzewski retiring, John Shire coming in, doing a solid job last year. But the scrutiny's different. So the scrutiny on Dak is going to be different because he is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. That, to me, this is just my opinion, that to me is a separate discussion from just Dak the Prescott, the quarterback. Remove the star from his helmet. Let's just evaluate. Let's just say he played in a white uniform with a black helmet. Like it was just like Penn State or something, like Penn State, blue uniform, white helmet. Okay, very plain. Let's just say it's just Dak Prescott, the quarterback. We're evaluating his performance on a game-to-game basis. There is no question. And I can't tell you how excited I was, genuinely excited, to see Mike McCarthy say what he said. Because this is, listen, I'm not really a part of the media. I mean, I just do this podcast. I'm obviously going to college to be a member of the media someday. But oftentimes I've noticed this in media, and it's something that I've often criticized, is the inability to admit when you're wrong. I mean, that's just that, like, people will just stay on, not everybody, I'm not attacking the whole media, but sometimes people will just stay on a take or stay in a belief, stay in an opinion, and they will not move off of it. For the record, we've seen this, not to venture too far outside of sports, but we've seen this with COVID. There's people on the left that were wrong about COVID. There's people on the right that were wrong about COVID. Neither will admit it to save their lives. Sometimes it's a bitter taste to admit when you're wrong. Sometimes you just got to do it. Helps your image, helps maintain a sense of transparency with the people that you're talking to, which is your audience, people reading your columns, the people watching you on television, listening to you on radio. Media didn't like getting called out. And I'm seeing a lot of, I don't know if I've seen this much pushback with Mike McCarthy in some time in terms of whether it's outside of coaching. But McCarthy's absolutely right in terms of how Dak's covered. We talked about Dak Prescott. I did full segments. It wasn't like a 1-minute mention on the show. No. I was leading my show off with segments talking about Dak Prescott's training camp interceptions. Training camp interceptions. Well, he led the league in interceptions the year before. We've seen this with other quarterbacks in the past. I mean, when Jameis Winston, and Jameis is not the quarterback Dak is, everybody knows that. But when Jameis threw 30 interceptions, 30 interceptions. The next year when he was Drew Brees' backup, was that ever a discussion? Oh, Jameis threw a bad pick there. Oh, that didn't look good. By the way, Dak isn't alone in that regard. That's why I feel like there's a little bit of a different standard in how we judge Brock Purdy. That's why I defended Purdy a lot. That, oh my God, Purdy has a bad game. The sky's falling. It took him freaking 12, 13, 14 starts. He's going to have a bad game. He is human after all. We were talking about Dak's picks in July when Dak Prescott has a tremendous game, the only quarterback this season. And by the way, if you look at this team that I'm about to mention, if you look at their schedule moving forward, probably going to be the only quarterback for a while who had a good game against the New York Jets is Dak Prescott. Dak was awesome against the Jets. Didn't turn the ball over, multiple touchdowns, pass already over 100, just excellent. What do we talk about the next day? Dak wasn't good in the red zone. Oh, hey, that should have been a pick he threw to Sauce Gardner. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Dak missed that one. We gave Dak more crap. Think about this, folks. Just think about this. And tell me I'm wrong on this. We gave Dak more grief for a for a throw that should have been a pick in a blowout win more than we did Jalen Hurts when he threw a pick that basically cost the Eagles the game. And Eagles fans will say, but Jalen Hurts been to a Super Bowl. Are we evaluating this on a game-to-game basis or not? Is that what we're doing? I've seen Josh Allen having a lot. Josh Allen's never been to a Super Bowl. He hasn't. Lamar Jackson's never been to a Super Bowl. Elite quarterbacks, by the way, think Lamar's better than Dak, and take Lamar over Dak today. We don't value them with them the way we do Dak. It's incredible that Again, that was the story last year, was the Dak Prescott interceptions. And if some people out there would not listen to me and be like, guys, some of these picks were not his fault. Some of these just went straight up through the receiver's hands, or the receiver ran the wrong route, or whatever the case may be, and the ball was tipped when it should have been caught. But Dak threw the pick. It goes on Dak's resume. But you won't give me the out of, well, yeah, it should have been an interception, but it wasn't. Where's the consistency? Dak Prescott is the only quarterback I've ever seen in my life who is judged on a not game-to-game basis, throw-for-throw basis. I mean, when they played the New England Patriots, bad football team, we know that, 138-3. Early in that game, Dak Prescott turned the wrong way. He turned the wrong way in a handoff to Tony Pollard. Dallas got stopped for a loss. They had to settle for a field goal. This was early in the game. Heard more about that than the fact that he had 100 passer rating on a Bill Belichick defense. This whole, let's see him do it in the playoffs. I could pose the same question to Josh Allen, to Lamar Jackson. Frankly, aside from the Super Bowl, kind of pose it to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has had one great playoff game, and to his credit, came in the Super Bowl. He was amazing against Kansas City. Didn't have to be great against the Giants. Certainly didn't have to be great against the Niners, because for 3 quarters, the Eagles weren't playing a quarterback. Literally, they were not playing, certainly for the whole second half, weren't playing a quarterback. Christian McCaffrey was taking snaps of the Wildcat. The NFL is a what have you done for me lately league. If that was not the case, Tom Brady was the best quarterback in the league last season. Didn't matter that the Bucs went 8-9. Didn't matter that Tom had one of his worst statistical seasons because he's the greatest quarterback ever. Well, he's got to be first, right? Your past accomplishments do matter. Your history 1,000% matters. It's why Patrick Mahomes, there's no metric. There's really no metric, no analytic, at least that I've seen, that say Patrick Mahomes has been the best quarterback in football this year. On any of these shows, podcasts, articles, whatever the case may be, do we ever argue who's the best quarterback in football? No, because Mahomes' history. Now, his history is incredible. 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 regular season MVPs, has never not gotten to the AFC title game. He's on a different standard than everybody else. So we do give him leeway when he plays bad. Understandably so. But one great season does not a great quarterback make. I think Jalen is great. I do. I've seen enough to say that's a great player. But again, if you look at Dak and Jalen's stats the last 3 years, Dak's the better quarterback. You look at their stats this year, Dak's the better quarterback. If it's, well, Jalen has a better record, well, Dak's 4-2. Dak is 4-2, and we barely give him the credit. It's the whole, I've heard this. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard this narrative. The Cowboys win, Cowboys only win when Dak is a cog in the system. When he's just a piece. He plays well. He does his part. When they lose, it's Dak's fault. Dak threw too many interceptions. The last week after the game against the Niners, a Niners defense that makes literally every quarterback they face look terrible, look pedestrian. You would have thought Dak Prescott went like 9 for 30 for 50 yards and 7 interceptions. Can the Cowboys win with Dak Prescott? And then the next week, ironically, or at least for me, not so ironically, because I know he's capable of doing this, he was literally the reason they won. So yeah, there is a different standard Dak Prescott is judged. Never seen him like it. John Rivera is in the comments. He said, Dallas is held to a higher standard, LOL. Yes, listen, John, that is a different discussion to me. If we're talking about how we view the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, of course it's different. Romo was held to that standard. Aikman, Staubach. Frankly, Cooper Rush. How many shows? I remember I did say this about Cooper Rush. The backup for the Cowboys. Man, we were talking about Cooper Rush evaluating his games last year, right? When you have the star on your helmet, there's a different level of scrutiny. There's a different level of attention. I'm talking about just simply the performance by itself. The evaluation of Dak. And because the Cowboys aren't a lot of nationally televised games, they're always at the top of the league. You got a Monday night game, got a bunch of Sunday night games, Thursday night game, Thanksgiving game. That's obviously playoff games the last 2 years. Obviously, those are very highly rated on television. We understand that. But I'm with McCarthy. I'm with McCarthy. I've never seen anything like it. Let's see. Patrick's talking about my Las Vegas segment. He says Asia Wilson had a sensational playoffs, back-to-back champs. The new WNBA dynasty has arrived and just getting started. Hashtag raise the stakes. No question about it. Like I said earlier in the first segment, this is great for women's basketball. By the way, they're about to get some superstars coming in next year's draft. So women's basketball is in great hands, and it's only trending upwards, which is awesome to see. But yeah, like I said, I saw this quote from McCarthy. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Keep in mind, it's not like McCarthy's coached, not to take shots, but it is like McCarthy's coached Desmond Ridder. All right? He's coached 2 of the best to ever do it, 2 of the 10 best to ever play the position. And even he says, they can get the scrutiny that Dak. Now, Favre won a Super Bowl and won multiple MVPs. Aaron won a Super Bowl and won multiple MVPs. Yeah, we're going to give them more leeway. Of course we should. But Dak's the only quarterback in the league that I've seen where when he plays bad, sky's falling. When he plays well, crickets. Don't say anything about it. It's incredible to me. I mean, it's always say when I, and then I'll get to my picks. Then I'll get to NFL predictions week 7. That this whole narrative is Dak Prescott top 10. And as I said on Wednesday's show, well, since he came in the league, his stats are top 10. Wins are top 10. Game when he drives, top 10. He's played aside from literally every game that he's played in the playoffs outside the Niners, he's played well. So that's good. And he's a great deep ball thrower, top 10 in that regard. Great against pressure. He's top 10 in that regard as well. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, good chance it's a duck. And this whole, he's not top 10, he's not elite. And I always say, well, then name the 10. Name the 10. You can have the opinion. I just need you to back it up with facts. Back up with facts. I got you. I can disagree with you. Not disagree with the facts, just how you're presenting the facts in your argument, or how the argument is laid out, rather. But we get to, okay, we get Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence and Lamar Jackson. Once we get to like 5, 6, 7, now we start to have a discussion like, you sure he's better than Dak? You should. And I love, for the record, love Justin Herbert. Love Justin Herbert. Love him. Loved him since college. Wish that the Chargers would stop taking him for granted and get him an actual head coach and OC. Dak's beat him twice, outplayed him twice, led a game-winning drive against him twice. And let's be honest, it isn't like, listen, Herbert's coaching that he's been surrounded with has been bad, but he's had the better roster. And let's not act like Dak has Mike McDaniel or Kyle Shanahan. I mean, I've criticized McCarthy, but I'm not gonna lie. When he said this, I'm like, good on you, coach. Good on you, coach. I'm with him. Never seen anything like it. All right, there's my thoughts on Dak. But that goes to show you, though, like that's why we do talk so much Cowboys. We do talk so much Lakers, Yankees, Duke basketball, and like these Alabama football. We do talk. Heck, we still talk about the Patriots because of the run they have. I mean, the Patriots are 1-5. They're terrible. They should be irrelevant. We still talk about them. There's certain brands that are interesting. And Dallas is at or near the top of that list. No doubt about it. I mean, they're on their bye week. Still talking about Dallas. All right. By the way, we don't need, for the record, that doesn't mean we need to talk about Dallas every single segment. I saw Undisputed the other day. I think they did every single segment on their show, every single one of the Cowboys. I'm like, guys, a little too much, a little overkill. Okay, there's other teams out there. Anyways, week 7 NFL predictions. Now, I know I say this every week, and I may sound like a broken record, and if it gets old, I get that. But man, I feel great. I feel great about my predictions this week. So just get the background music going right now because I'm 1-0 on the week, coming off a 10. I feel fantastic. Let's start with the Cleveland Browns. And the Indianapolis Colts. I don't hear the background music. Folks, comment if you can hear the background music. It should be going right now, but for some reason I don't really hear it through my audio feed. But never mind. Browns, Colts in Indianapolis. The Browns are a 3-point favorite, 3.5-point favorite. It's kind of fluctuated throughout the week. So the good news for the Browns is it looks like Deshaun Watson is going to be back playing soon. He has been throwing as of late. He has been practicing as of late, so he should be ready to go for this matchup. Obviously, they beat the San Francisco 49ers, that great roster of all teams, with P.J. Walker at starting quarterback. So obviously get the upgrade of Deshaun coming in. Not a massive upgrade. Deshaun is not even close to the player he used to be back in his days in Houston. But you'll take Deshaun over P.J. Walker. There's no doubt about that. Now, For Cleveland, obviously their offensive line is among the best in the NFL. Pro Football Focus, on a week-to-week basis, often ranks it as the best in the NFL, and that's despite missing some starters. But Amari Cooper's been playing good football, as has David Njoku. By the way, David Njoku, God bless that man, playing with burns on his face. Just man, this is what that guy's gone through in the last week, 2 weeks or so. Man, hats off to him for going out there and playing. I wouldn't blame him if he didn't play. I mean, given that, but hats off to him. But this Browns defense is so good. By the numbers, it's literally being compared, again, because of the numbers, to the 1970s Purple People Eater Minnesota Vikings. It's that good. Myles Garrett is that special of a player. This secondary is tremendous. It's excellent. Linebacking core is good. So for Cleveland, coming in this game, they should feel good about themselves, come off a massive win against San Francisco. Look, Indianapolis, the bad news just kind of keep coming. Anthony Richardson, it was announced he had season-ending shoulder surgery, so he'll be gone for the rest of the season, ending what was shaping up to be a pretty darn impressive rookie campaign, but he's gone for the year with a shoulder injury. Gardner Minshew's probably going to start for the rest of the year, barring injury, knock on wood for him. He struggled badly last week against the Jacksonville defense, so we saw a struggling Derek Carr in the second half go up and down the field on. This goes without saying, the Browns are a significantly better defense than Jacksonville is, so give me the Browns to win this game, to cover the 3.5-point spread, 27-16. I actually thought about making this if I were a Bettin Man game, because I feel that good about it. But indoors for Cleveland, they're used to playing in cruddy weather. They'll be in good shape. So give me the Browns 27-16. Yes, I do think with Deshaun back in the lineup, they're capable of scoring 27, and I think Gardner Minshew will turn the ball over a couple times, put the Browns in a good position. Moving on to an AFC East matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. Buffalo on the road, an 8-point favorite, understandably so, despite a lackluster offensive performance by the Bills last week against the New York Giants on Sunday Night Football. But for New England, they're 1-5. They're tied for the second worst record in all football. They're playing horrendous offensive ball right now. Frankly, defensively, fine performance last week against Vegas, but overall kind of disappointing in the long run. But if you're the Buffalo Bills, and if you're Josh Allen in particular, listen, this is a guy who is just up and down week to week. You never know what quarterback you're going to get. Josh Allen is like he's like what did Forrest Gump say? Like, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know which one you're going to get. Like Josh Allen, you never know which Josh Allen you're going to get from a week-to-week basis. But listen, the good news is if you're a Bills fan, you're like, hey, he didn't play that great against the Giants last week, so we should be due for a great Josh Allen performance. That very well could be the case. And also the fact that he's been the guy who has been outstanding. If you look at his numbers against the Patriots since 2021, the guy, even in 2020, he absolutely tears Belichick's defense up. Belichick has always struggled against mobile quarterbacks. Josh Allen is one of the most mobile, probably the most mobile star quarterback in the AFC, Lamar Jackson aside. But listen, Buffalo's offense is kind of in a situation where they need to get themselves right. I don't think this is one of the 10 best teams in football, despite the record. I've not liked what I've seen from them from an offensive standpoint against good defenses. Belichick's defense has had its moments this year, but it's also had moments where it's given up 30. Mac Jones is going to turn the ball over. Okay, that is a guarantee. Mac Jones is going to throw at least one interception. It won't just be the typical run-of-the-mill tip ball interception. It's going to be a clunker. It's going to be a bad one, despite the injuries the Bills have on the defensive side of the ball. Give me Buffalo 31-10. And 10 might be a bit generous for the Patriots. And Mac Jones likely gets benched. 31-10. Bills beat the Patriots in this matchup. Josh Allen continues to own Bill Belichick and this Patriots team. Bills win 31-10 over the New England Patriots. It is now time for Bryson's Bleak Bet. It's the one game every week that I have absolutely no confidence in predicting. But hey, got to predict them all. Got to put them all on the record. And this is a very deserving one. This is a rough one. Las Vegas Raiders and the Chicago Bears in this matchup. I don't like it at all, folks. So Chicago is dealing with a backup quarterback, a guy starting last week who was literally the difference in the Vikings winning against the Bears last week. He had a strip sack, scoop and score for the Vikings. That's what cost the Bears last week. No Justin Fields for Chicago. And as for the Las Vegas Raiders, no Jimmy Garoppolo. It's either going to be Brian Hoyer, who has not won a football game in 7 years, or Aiden O'Connell, who would be making his second ever NFL start. Here's my advice to all of those in Bryson's Bleak Bets. And the Bears have been on this. I think it's the third time the Bears have been on Bryson's Bleak Bet. Because I just don't like watching the Bears. I just don't. Okay? It's usually not a good product, not a good performance. But my advice to all out there watching NFL football, and we've got some fantastic 1 o'clock window games. Fantastic 1 o'clock window games. Ones you absolutely have to tune in to see. This is not one of them. So, my advice to Raiders fans who've suffered a lot in the last 2 decades, and Bears fans who suffered a lot really in the last 4 decades, dating back to the 85 Bears, my advice to you, don't watch this game. Don't put yourself through the misery of abysmal quarterback play. Because this is going to be bad. Regardless of who the Raiders start, we know who the Bears are starting. It's going to be bad quarterback play. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be fun to watch by any stretch of the imagination. But I like the Raiders' offensive pieces. Brian Hoyer is a veteran. Aiden O'Connell showed moments from time to time. Moments, not often, but from time to time. I really liked Aiden O'Connell at Purdue. He broke my heart, my Vols' heart in a ball game years ago. That's beside the point. I like what Vegas has. They have Devontae Adams. They need to get Devontae the ball. He's frustrated, rightfully so. Get Devontae Adams the football. He's one of the 3 best receivers in the sport. Hunter Renfro's probably going to get traded sooner rather than later. Still the pieces there. Josh Jacobs is there. Bears don't stop the run whatsoever. So I will go with the Las Vegas Raiders in Bryce's Bleak bet. Again, I want to emphasize this as much as humanly possible. I don't feel good about this game whatsoever, but nonetheless, I will roll with the Chicago Bears. With the Las Vegas Raiders to beat the Chicago Bears and get the W 21-12. Looks like we've got a comment here. If I can put myself on the screen here real quick. Okay, here's the comment. It is from John Rivera. He says the Bears are going to have the first 2 picks next year. Yeah, that could be best case scenario. Like Chicago fans probably rooting for a loss at this point because they want to see what Justin Fields got. But since Justin Fields not out there, they're saying let's just go in, let's just drop this game, let's just forget it ever happened. We've got Carolina's pick, we've got our own pick. So Bears in terms of assets, they're in a good spot, but they're the Bears, so they're probably going to screw it up because they didn't draft Jalen Carter 9th overall, which was hate that he went to Philadelphia. Anyways, next matchup. NFC East matchup, Washington Commanders, New York Football Giants. Washington is a 3-point road favorite. Commanders coming off a big win last week against the Atlanta Falcons. Shout out to my man Parnell, the host of the Commanders Demand podcast. You can catch it on the Grid Network. Might do I think usually does live streams after Commanders games, so definitely be on the lookout here on the Grid's YouTube channel for him. But listen, this is an interesting matchup because of the fact that Washington is, again, I don't know what to make of them. Because there's aspects of Sam Howell I like, but sometimes I can't get to see them because the Commanders' offensive line is awful. So awful that Sam Howell is in a position where they might break the record, Washington might, a dubious record, of giving up the most sacks in NFL history. Which I think that record's held by David Carr back in the day, back in 2002 with the Houston Texans, where the expansion Texans back in the day, the first year of their existence as a franchise. That is not a mark you want to be setting for Washington. I like what they have defensively. They played opportunistic ball, taking the ball away from Desmond Ridder multiple times last week on the road, getting a big-time win. For the Giants, so a Giants optimist, and I can't imagine there's even that many within the Giants fan base. Again, shout out to my man Eric, one of the hosts of the Outside the Cage podcast here on the Grid. Big Giants fan, very loyal Giants fan. Can't imagine there's that many optimistic people in New York right now with this team, and understandably so. But look, they held Buffalo, who has shown themselves to be an explosive offense. They held them to 14. Tyrod Taylor did not turn the ball over, and if not for a horrendous clock management issue at the end of the first half and an officiating break at the end, maybe you win. Maybe you beat Buffalo on the road. Tyrod Taylor's going to be starting. Daniel Jones is out this week. But look, this was almost Bryce's Bleak bet game. I actually thought about this one very seriously. I'm actually going to take the Giants to cover, take the Giants and the points, because I do think Tyrod Taylor will play clean football and not not spreading it out all over the carpet like Desmond Ridder did against the Commanders defense. Chase Young will play well, and Desmond Ridder, again, this is not a great Giants pass rush. Not Desmond Ridder, I'm sorry. Sam Howell will have enough time to get the ball out of his hands on a consistent basis. Won't be under pressure quite as much as he's been in games past. So I'll take the Commanders to win a tight one, 20-19 over the New York Giants. Again, take the Giants and the points. Again, don't feel awesome about that bet. I don't feel great about that bet, but nonetheless, take the Giants and the points 20-19. I'm sorry, take the Commanders to win 2019 and the Giants and the points in this matchup. 2019 Commanders, but take the Giants plus 2.5 or plus 3, whatever the line may be. Moving on to our next matchup, and this you could argue, seriously, you could argue even more so than the Dolphins-Eagles game, that this might be the game of the week, and it just so happens to be in the 1 o'clock window. It is the, in my view, Best team in all of football, Detroit Lions, on the road against the Baltimore Ravens, who, even as a Steelers fan, I got to say, love the roster. I think they got a ton of talent. I think they're the best team in that division. I think they have a chance to compete for a Super Bowl. It's in Baltimore. Ravens at home are a field goal favorite, which makes sense given the fact the home team automatically gets 3 points. These are about as evenly matched rosters as you could possibly imagine. Here's what I'm thinking about in this one. Here's what I'm thinking about. So Detroit's coming this game red hot. They've won 5 of their first 6 games. Their only loss was an overtime loss to a very good Seattle team. As for the Baltimore Ravens, their 2 losses came to the Colts and to my Steelers in tight games. Here's the thing, though. Because people are picking, so I'm seeing a lot of people out there, a lot of people, betting this game are going, hey, take the Ravens and take the Ravens to cover. Here's my thing, though, and I love Lamar Jackson. But there's this whole sort of thing, like, if Lamar is able to put together that complete performance, which I would argue he already has. I mean, the Ravens dropped 28 on an amazing Browns defense. I think we should give Lamar some props there. But it's sort of against an if. If Lamar does this, if Lamar does that, if they're able to run the football, if. I don't have to use that 2-letter word at all for this Lions team. I know this defense is going to show up. Top 8 in the NFL in scoring defense. I know this offense is going to show up even on the road. Now, one could argue, hey, I mean, come on, Bryson, the teams they play on the road, outside of Kansas City, put the Chiefs aside. That's as tough a place to play, if not the toughest place to play in football. They beat Tampa Bay on the road. I mean, it's not some, crazy... They beat Green Bay on the road. It's a whole different test in Baltimore. It's the best team they faced on the road this season, not named Kansas City. Best team they've faced all year, not named Kansas City. There's no question about that. I've seen Jared Goff put it together on the road and at home. I've seen it outdoors and in the dome. By the way, Ravens missing Marcus Williams. Starting safety for the Ravens going to be out of this game. Expect Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jameson Williams to have a big-time performance. Expose the back end of that Ravens defense time and time again. I think Jared Goff with a clean pocket, because he's not a relatively mobile guy, literally on a week-to-week basis looks like a top 5 quarterback. I don't think Jared Goff is a top 5 quarterback. He's certainly top 10, though. But when you give him a clean pocket, which the Lions, who arguably have the best offensive line in the sport, can usually do, I think this Ravens defense is going to get exposed to a certain degree. I haven't loved what I've seen from them consistently on a week-to-week basis. I'm going to go with the upset here, and I'm going to go pretty convincingly. Lions 27, Ravens 17. Give me Detroit. I feel great about this. Kneecaps will be bitten. Kneecaps will be bitten in Baltimore, Maryland. Sorry, not sorry to my man Devin Nettles, big-time fan of the Baltimore Ravens. Give me Detroit 27-17 over the Ravens. The matchups favor Detroit, and they will win this football game once again 27-17. Moving on to our next matchup, NFC North showdown. Again, NFC North, worst division in football, but these two teams are close to the top of it. Tampa Bay leading it. You've got the Atlanta Falcons going on the road to Tampa Bay, Florida, to take on the Buccaneers. So, and by the way, the Bucs are a 2.5-point favorite in this one. I'm all over Tampa Bay minus 2.5, and here's why. So Desmond Ridder has played very careless football, has been awful since week 2 of the season, whether it's been on the road against Jacksonville, whether it's been at home, whether it's been whatever the case may be. They struggled against a Washington defense that did give up 40 to Justin Fields and the Bears, so you have that aspect of it as well. I'm seeing a lot of people taking Atlanta because they have the pieces, they have the weapons. I've gotten to a point in time where I'm like, they don't have the quarterback to get them the weapons, and frankly, they don't have the head coach to put the quarterback in position to get them the weapons, the football, whether it be Drake London or Kyle Pitts or Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, you just turn around and hand the ball off to him. But I think Tampa Bay's defense is playing really good football. For the record, Detroit went on the road against Tampa Bay. Okay, this explosive Lions offense, and David Montgomery was healthy for a big chunk of this game. They did have Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and all these guys. Jameson Williams scored 20. I mean, Tampa Bay's defense gave the Bucs a chance to win. It's just Detroit's incredible defense held Tampa Bay's offense in check. But Atlanta struggles at times to get to the quarterback. Baker is pretty good with the clean pocket. Mike Evans has played outstanding football this year. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers to win this one 24-9. I think they're going to hold Atlanta single digits. I don't like this Atlanta Falcons offense at all. Not from a personnel perspective, but from a can you generate big plays in the passing game perspective, and they don't have the quarterback or the head coach to do that. So I'm going to go with Tampa Bay to get to a surprising 4-2. And by the way, surpass my my preseason expectations for them. I thought Tampa Bay was going to be awful. I thought they were going to be tanking, get Drake May or Michael Penix or even Caleb Williams potentially. I think they'll get win number 4, get to 4-2, and lead at that NFC South. A pretty weak division, but albeit these are NFL teams, these are NFL players. Tampa Bay will win this one 24-9 over the Atlanta Falcons and get to 4-2. Moving on to our next matchup, and once again, listen, I can be iffy on my picks at times, but my upset of the week. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers, my Pittsburgh Steelers, 20-17 over the Los Angeles Rams. And here is why. So the Rams are a 3-point favorite at home. But I got news for LA fans, whatever Rams fans are out there, and this sort of feeds into the point. This is going to be a Pittsburgh Steelers home game. By the way, I've seen 2 years ago, the Steelers played a game on Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. It's actually really the only time a Matt Canada offense has shown a pulse. I think the Steelers scored well over 30 in that game, and Big Ben, his last season in the league, put up a big-time performance against Herbert and the Chargers. But the point is, the Chargers, we get what they have less fans than the Rams, at least it seems like we've seen that, but Pittsburgh took over that stadium. Took over that Steelers, the towels were all over the place. By the way, I view the Raiders as a big fan base, as a passionate fan base. Steelers took over Allegiant Stadium in Sin City. I mean, they made that happen. So in Los Angeles, that'll be the case. So this will be a home game for Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin historically has been awesome. Coming off of buys, he's been great as a 3-point underdog. You also look at the fact that while LA's pass game has been tremendous, right? And Stafford is playing great football right now, giving the ball to Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp, my twin, by the way, is picking up right where he left off from 2021, headed down 2022, dealt with injuries this year as well. But Cooper Kupp's playing outstanding football, looks like the guy that won the Triple Crown in 2021, and frankly, had the greatest receiving season in the history of the NFL. But the point is, here's why I like the Steelers. So, is Matt Canada's offense going to consistently look inept? Yep, no question about it. Is Kenny Pickett going to look overwhelmed at times? Yep, no question about it. However, Matt Stafford will have that game from time to time, and I love Stafford. They'll have that game here and there where he's a little careless with the ball. By the way, this Rams offensive line, we see it when they play great pass rushes, is not good, and Stafford is not mobile. He's kind of a pocket guy who's been relegated to that at this stage of his career in year 15. TJ Watt's going to have a big day. Alex Highsmith's going to have a big day. I think Joey Porter Jr. is going to have a tough matchup, whether he's matched up against Kupp or against Nacua. That's going to be the part that scares me a little bit as a Steelers fan, but I think Kenny Pickett, coming off the bye week, has a little bit of confidence spilling him right from that game-winning drive. Do I trust Matt Canada? No. Do I want him fired? Yes, no doubt about it. Wish it happened tomorrow. However, he's the offensive coordinator. Pittsburgh's going to struggle to break 20. It's going to be an ugly game. There's no question about that. But I think this pass rush for Pittsburgh is going to get it done against a bad LA Rams offensive line. So once again, give me my Steelers. Mike Tomlin is amazing. Great coaches are great coming off a bye. Mike Tomlin is certainly qualifies in that regard. Check his numbers as an underdog and check his numbers as a coach coming off a bye week. He is both in this matchup, so I'm all over my Steelers. We get to 4-2. We need this win, given that we're playing Jacksonville next week. 20-17 Steelers over the Los Angeles Rams. Got another divisional matchup in the NFC West. You've got the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks. So, look. Arizona was a cool story for a little bit. I mean, they really were. They were cool story. Here's where I'm at on them, though. Here's where I'm at. And I love Joshua Dobbs because I don't want to speak against Joshua Dobbs, but I think the rest of the league really didn't take them seriously through 3 weeks, and they played Washington close, came very close to beating the Giants, and did beat the Cowboys. Ever since then, the defense has been horrendous. Josh Dobbs has turned the ball over a lot, and that's my man. I love Joshua Dobbs. Still believe he's a starting quarterback. Still do, in the right system. They've been out-coached in the second half of games. Arizona's been an awful second-half team this season. Starting the Giants game. The Giants, of all teams. That'd be a pretty good indicator of that. Again, I don't love the prospects of the Arizona Cardinals right now. And I like where Seattle's at. Look, Seattle can look at themselves in the mirror and say, we outgained. We basically doubled up the Bengals in yards. We went up and down the field in the Cincinnati defense, which is really good, I think. We just couldn't cash it in the red zone. Well, this is a lot of times, again, when you are in a situation where something isn't going right, the NFL is a funny way of doing this, especially with good teams, which Seattle obviously is, where you come into another matchup where you're like, okay, this suits our matchup. This really, suits where we're at, suits where we struggled last week. So I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks to win this game, 31-16 over the Arizona Cardinals. Geno Smith is a big day. I want them to get the ball to Jackson Smith and Jigba at some point, okay? I know DK Metcalf's not practicing. I'm not sure if he'll be able to go. If he's not, Jackson Smith and Jigba, this need to be a big game for him. But the Cardinals struggle to stop the run. Expect Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet to have a big afternoon. In the Pacific Northwest, the Seahawks beat the Cardinals 31-16. Next is the Green Bay Packers and the Denver Broncos. So I don't know what to do with this one. I don't trust either quarterback. I don't trust Green Bay's coach. I'm starting to not trust Denver's coach, and I think Sean Payton's a first ballot Hall of Famer. This is kind of one of those games for Jordan Love where the Packers say, okay, surely to goodness, you can win this game. Green Bay's coming off a bye. Green Bay's had film on Denver for the last 2 weeks. You also consider the fact that Denver is just in a tailspin right now offensively. Russell Wilson was horrendous against Kansas City last week. The Broncos are at 1-5. They're going to trade their receivers, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. Nothing's going right for the Broncos. Maybe there's a chance Surtain gets traded. Who knows? I mean, it's a yard sale in Denver right now. They're not feeling good about themselves, nor should they. They don't play complimentary football. But here's the thing. Jordan Love, and I've been on this since week 4. Jordan Love has looked worse every single week. He looked amazing against the Chicago Bears in week 1. I said, okay, props to the kid. He played a bad defense and took advantage. That good quarterbacks do that. Let's see him do it against a better defense, Atlanta. Well, for 3 quarters he did, and then the fourth quarter, the Packers didn't get a first down in the fourth quarter. Didn't get a first down. Part of that was because Jordan Love botched a quarterback sneak. And then the week prior, bad for 3 quarters against the Saints. Played great in the fourth. Against Detroit, 3.5 quarters, terrible. Had a decent third quarter. Bad most of the night, though. Week after that, Vegas. Vegas' defense scored 13 points. Couldn't move the ball. Coaching staff did not trust him whatsoever. Did they trust him against a Broncos defense that, just a month ago gave up 70? Here's what I think's going to happen. Aaron Jones is back, which is great news for Packers fans. But I have a feeling Sean Payton against Matt LaFleur. Listen, we can bag on Sean Payton all we want, and I understand that he's not done a good job this year. I still trust him more than Matt LaFleur. I think Matt LaFleur is bad situationally, certainly with Aaron Rodgers in the past, and definitely now with Jordan Love. The Packers do not trust Jordan Love to take shots down the field. I think Patrick Surtain will get a pick in this game. I really do. I think this Broncos defense will play opportunistic ball. Give me Denver in the upset. Not much of an upset. Packers are a 1-point road favorite. But give me Denver 26-23. Denver 26, Packers 23 in this matchup. Again, I don't like Green Bay. I said they were a 6-win team before the season. Thus far, through the first 5, they look every bit like that, like a 6-win team. Jordan Love has looked worse every single week. The Broncos, to their credit, again, I think some of this is Kansas City was bored. I said that on my show last Friday. So that's why the Broncos defense had their moments from time to time. But I think they ride a little bit of that momentum into this one. Broncos beat the Packers 26-23. It is now time for my favorite segment on my show every week. It is now time for
Bettin Man.
If I were a Bettin Man, I'm taking a good hard look at another divisional matchup. This one in the AFC West. Los Angeles Chargers, Kansas City Chiefs. Folks, I am all over Chargers plus 5.5. Here's why. So Justin Herbert in the past, especially in Arrowhead against Patrick Mahomes, has played him throw for throw. I mean, last year, if you remember that Week 2 game, I remember talking about it on the show, the Thursday night game, Chargers and Chiefs, where Justin Herbert was moving the ball up and down the field on this Chiefs defense, which ended up being pretty solid, ended up making a goal line mistake through a goal line pick that really wasn't his fault. It was more on the tight end's fault. Gerald Everett got taken the distance, and Kansas City ended up winning by 3. And Justin Herbert took a beating in that game as well. But the point is, Justin Herbert has beaten Mahomes in he didn't beat Mahomes. He won in 2020, albeit against Kansas City's backups because the Chiefs were resting their starters for the playoffs. 2021, outplayed Mahomes, beat him head-to-head at Arrowhead. Last year, nearly beat Mahomes head-to-head at Arrowhead. By the way, even in the games in LA where they might as well be home games for Kansas City because they have more fans in the seats, more Kansas City fans in SoFi Stadium. I'm looking at Kansas City and I'm saying, man, this is kind of your kryptonite. Justin Herbert, whatever it is, seems to have Kansas City's number. He's got Josh Palmer. He's got Keenan Allen. He's got the weapons to do it. Austin Eckler. I think this could be a little bit of a shootout. This is a must-win game for the Chargers. I didn't pick them to make the playoffs before the year because I don't trust Brandon Staley or Kellen Moore for the life of me. But desperation, man, that can get you going from a production standpoint. But if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, look, you scored 19 against a bad Broncos defense last week, kind of a bad taste in your mouth. And the Chargers defense, look, they're terrible against the pass. So I think Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense, by the way, which just added McCole Hardman, which I really like that move, bringing him back to Kansas City from the New York Jets. He's had great seasons with Mahomes in the past. I'm going to go with, put the prediction up. If I were a betting man, take the Chargers and the points. It's going to be a classic AFC West, Chargers-Chiefs, high-scoring game type showdown. But give me Kansas City 31-27 over the Chargers. They get to 6-1. They maintain their spot as one of the two. And if Detroit loses, which I don't think they will, but if Detroit loses, I'll probably put Kansas City at number 1. Probably have to do that. Give me Kansas City over LA 31-27. But if I were a betting man, take the Chargers plus 5.5. 5.5 is too. If it were at 3, take Kansas City. But 5.5, man, is a little bit too much for Justin Herbert. He's a good quarterback. All right, final game. Is this our final game? Yes, it is. Okay. And this is arguably the game of the weekend. Miami Dolphins, Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles are a 2.5-point favorite here at home. So this is an interesting one, and here's why. The weaknesses of these two teams, particularly these two defenses, are ones that both offenses can expose. So Miami struggles to stop the run, and they cannot get to the quarterback for the life of them. That's the weakness of this defense, and that's something that has actually surprised me. They added Vic Fangio. I thought he'd kind of fix that. He's had great pass rushing defenses in the past. Not really been the case for the Dolphins. I don't know if it's a personnel issue. Bradley Chubb has been quiet as a mouse on Christmas Eve thus far through the season. Really, all the Dolphins pass rushers have been. But I'm looking at Miami, and I'm saying, okay, you got Tua, Tyreek, Waddle. This is going to have to be their game because Philadelphia is great at stopping the run. I don't think Raheem Mostert's going to have much of an impact at all, at least in the running game. And I think Tua is going to have to be special in order for the Dolphins to win because, listen, Philadelphia's secondary, it's weak. When they play good quarterbacks, they struggle. Tua certainly classifies that. I put him in the ballpark, not necessarily in it, but in the ballpark of an elite quarterback, like top 8, top 9 quarterback in the NFL. And so I think Miami is going to go up and down the field. Waddle's going to make plays. Tyreek always makes plays regardless of the defense. So he'll have a bomb touchdown at some point in this football game. But for Philadelphia, the thing about Jalen Hurts and the weakness in his game is that he really, and this is surprising given how mobile he is, but he really struggles against pressure. But as I mentioned, the good news is Dolphins can't get to the quarterback, so he'll have all day. The Dolphins secondary has struggled. We saw how bad they looked against Josh Allen and the Bills offense. So listen, with the weapons they have, I know there's a little bit of a disconnect between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. He's been kind of disgruntled at times. I think A.J. Brown's going to get the ball a lot. I think the Eagles at times are going to work out of the play action, get DeAndre Swift the ball way more than they did against the New York Jets. So I'm actually going to roll with the Eagles to win this game in a little bit of a high-scoring affair because both offenses will expose both defenses' weaknesses. But give me Philadelphia to cover, barely, but to cover 30-27 over the Miami Dolphins to get to 6-1. I said on Monday's show after the loss to the Jets for Philadelphia, I said, look, these next 8 games are going to tell us how far the Eagles are going this season. If they come out of this stretch and they're 6-2 in it, they're good. Like, watch out for Philadelphia to make a deep playoff run once again, just like they did last year. But I'll roll Philadelphia to get a win here because I think they're more capable of exposing Miami's weaknesses than the other way around. Philadelphia wins 30-27. That's what I got. That's what I feel confident in. So there's my picks. Week 7 NFL predictions. If we can get the Bears graphic back on here, the Bears Raiders graphic. And again, I implore all Bears and Raiders fans out there for your mental health, for your emotional well-being, like don't watch this game. It's going to be, I don't like watching games with bad quarterbacks. This is going to feature that. But my Bryson's Bleak bet game, the Bears are on it again, but Bryson's Bleak bet, I've got the Raiders to cover the 2.5-point spread and to win outright. Well, obviously they win outright because they cover as a favorite. 21-12 over the Bears. That's Bryson's Bleak bet. My upset of the week is my Steelers over the Rams 20-17. And if I were a bet man, I would take the Chargers and the points plus 5.5. But Kansas City to win outright 31-27. Anytime Mahomes and Herbert face, it's always a great game. I mean, last year, Herbert threw the pick 6, which basically sealed the game for Kansas City. And then last year, I think Mahomes led a game-winning drive against the Chargers defense. So that's what I got. That's my predictions, and I feel really good about them. There's 13 games this week. San Francisco, Minnesota on Monday. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. when I predict this Niners-Vikings game on Monday show, Monday Night Football, I think there's a chance I might be going for the old undefeated week. I'm gonna pull the Babe Ruth. I'm gonna call my shot. Real quick, then we'll get out of here. Let's check the scores in Major League Baseball. Okay, so Rangers are up 4-2 on the Astros. Bottom of the 8th inning, they got men on base with no outs, so it looks like Texas is in a good spot to take a 3-2 lead in that series. And I said Astros in 6, unless Houston makes a 9th inning rally, makes a 9th inning comeback. Houston's gonna have to try and win this series in 7. Phillies Diamondbacks tonight. Listen, props to Arizona for getting the walk-off win last night, playing with heart, playing in front of that great crowd at Chase Field. That said, Philadelphia is the significantly better baseball team. I had them in a gentleman's sweep before the season. I still feel very confident about that. Philly will have this series over with by tomorrow night, as much as it hurts me to say because I hate Philadelphia sports. And also, by the way, and I have to credit the source that I heard this from because he got it from another source. My guy, Barry Grant Jr., hosts the All Even podcast, frequent guest on Carving Up Live, and co-founder of the Grid Network with Mike Guido. Barry said in his show last week that Shohei Ohtani is looking to move out east to play baseball out east, which Barry, as a Mets fan, perceived to be, hey, he's going to the Mets. This is bad news, Barry. Bad news to Alfred. Shohei ain't going to New York. Mets or Yankees, not coming to New York. He's coming to Boston. I'm just telling you right now. He's coming to Boston. Give me a Red Sox. I cannot wait. The show when Shohei comes to Beantown, comes to play at Fenway. Oh, I've already got the show planned out, and I'm going to get the jersey, everything. Oh, it's going to be so great. And we've got a great weekend of football. Vols beat Alabama 23-19, and I feel great about my picks. I'm going to get them all right. My Steelers will get the win over the Rams in the upset of the week. So that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to go catch Carving Up Live on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. And be sure to like, share, comment, and take 2 seconds out of y'all's day. Hit that big red subscribe button. Helps the channel grow exponentially. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, 1K by Super Bowl 58, which is February the 11th. We're getting close. I think we're over 470. I know that for sure. Let me check Superfly fast at our subscriber count. We're at 475 right now. That's where we're at on subscribers. So we're well on our way to get to 1,000. So if you have subscribed, thank you so much. Obviously, 4-year anniversary of Carving Up Live is tomorrow. October 21st, 2019 is when I started the show, and it's grown so much ever since. So if you have subscribed, thank you. Please tell a friend to tell a friend about it and to subscribe to the show. If you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Just hit. Well, actually, it's more like down there where that's that subscribe button right there. Hit that one right there. Yeah, the red one. The one that says subscribe. That one. See, look how easy that was. You just subscribe to Carving It Up. It's that easy. All right. Great weekend of college football. Great weekend of playoff baseball. And, oh, by the way, the NBA starts next Tuesday. Loaded episode of Carving Up Live today. More loaded shows next week. Probably an NBA special coming next Tuesday, around next Tuesday. Well, that's still pending, but we're going to try and make that happen. So have a great weekend, everybody. Please continue to stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please, please, please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. We've got to address this, folks. We've got to address this. No doubt about it. Great weekend of football ahead. Cannot wait. See y'all then. Baseball, basketball, whole bit. College, NFL. There's nothing like October in sports. See y'all Monday. God bless you all. Peace out. Third Saturday October goes to the Vols, baby. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.